Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to a brand new series in Space Haven. This will be a Let's Play tutorial series. Space Haven, if you are unfamiliar with the game, which I'm going to assume you are, is a mix of maybe RimWorld plus FTL. It is a sort of spaceship survival game with building and crafting elements. In this series, I'm going to be starting off on the basic scenario on medium difficulty. You start off on a mining base, and you're tasked with building your first spaceship. Before I even start that, I'm going to go over the cast of characters here. So we start off with 5 characters here, all picked from my patrons. We've got Accidental Aggro, who is a firefighter before the apocalypse, talkative, so strikes up conversations with other crew members. A capable miner, constructor, gunner, and on weapons, with basically no accuracy. Oof. Okay, then we have Damien, a nurse, fast learner, very capable in medical, industry, weapons. We've got Dennis Keith, a fighter pilot, charming, botany, construction, shielding, and navigation. We've got Solbian, who is a telemarketer, smart, very capable pilot, shieldings, and weapons. And then Wolf Bear, a iron-wheeled teacher, mining, construction, industry. One thing to go over is that these skills for medical, industry, construction, botany, mining, and piloting is sort of your everyday skills. Gunning, shielding, operations, weapons, navigation are controlling the ship, often during sort of hyperspace or ship-to-ship combat. It's going to be important for you to have, when you're playing this, multiple miners, as mining is a skill that's used a lot. You probably only need one person capable of medical, maybe 2, to make sure that if your doctor gets hurt, they at least can get tended to. Industry and construction are also very important as well. So when you start off here, you start off on a little mining base, which you are, I guess you could say, renting, and it's going to give you some heads up here. So right now it's telling me to start building my new spaceship by constructing a hull. So the way this works is if I hit the build queue, which is B, you go to edit here and build hull. This is where you can build the hull. Now, you only have so many hull blocks. So the cost to build down here is 0 right now because I haven't placed any hull blocks. But eventually, when I set this up like this, right, it's going to have a hull block cost. So I'm going to lay out a 15 by 21, which costs 26 hull blocks to build. And I'm going to unpause the game. Now, I'm going to keep it paused. Before I even start that, let's go over the UI here. So we've got the star map. I exist here. It's a resource rich with a derelict and a space base, and my next is going to be Planet 102. I don't see yet what's there. This might look like FTL to you. You hop through a system. Within this own, let's call it solar system, you don't need hyperspeed sleep chambers, but then jumping from solar system to solar system you will. That will come into play later. Then you've got the scheduling. So here we go. I'm going to tell my guys we've got gunner. So these red skills are the skills used during, combat, mostly, and a little bit of navigation. So I'm just scheduling the skilled people to do what they want. Here you can see we've got one person that's barely a doctor and a good doctor. So I'm telling the Wolf Bear, barely a doctor, to actually prioritize it a little bit more in case Damien gets hurt. You've got botany. I'm only going to have one botanist for now. Multiple constructors. And then maintenance, mining, industry, logistics. You have a schedule. I'm not going to change the schedule right now. And then you have multiple ships, where their home is, so on and so forth. This is when you can hyperspace and jump and all that. And this is the combat system, which currently there isn't a hostile ship in the system. This is the resources of your current home. So I can click these asteroids and say, I want to mine these asteroids. Now, at the moment, I'm going to definitely mine everything as we are resource gathering as much as we can. And then this last one is sort of the data logs. Right now, it just highlights basically what happened in the apocalypse. All right, so starting off, I have already laid out a pretty sizable hull, as you can see here. And I'm just going to wait for that to get constructed. The ship construction phase takes a very, very long time. Another thing I want to do is to figure out who I want boarding this derelict. I only have one capable shooter, who is Damien. So I'm going to tell Damien, I'm going to click draft and tell him to pick up from this storage container, which is where my weapons are contained, and give him the big rifle, and then undraft him. Then of everybody else here, let's figure out who is going to be a good shooter. So, Dennis Keith is fairly accurate as well. It's mostly accuracy that I'm concerned about, unless, of course, a character is something like a wimp, likely to retreat and give up in combat. Solbian also has some decent accuracy, so I'm going to have him pick up a rifle as well, or a pistol rather. And then it comes between Wolfbear and Aggro. Wolfbear is going to be the last person to get a pistol. Aggro here has a perception of 0, giving him the lowest accuracy. And accuracy is probably the most important. When you board enemy, or when you board derelict ships, you're very likely to run into things to shoot. I'll just put it like that. All right, so continuing on, I'm going to speed up the time. We have got 2 of our miners. We've got Wolfbear and Accidental Aggro going to mine up these asteroids for resources. Now, while we mine up those asteroids, let me click through the wall view to lower the walls a little bit. We have on this mining base, we have all of the capacity to construct things. So let me go through them. First thing you have is a recycler. A recycler is basically used to take the scrap grabbed from derelict ships and turn them into materials. Definitely, the recycler is probably the first thing you're going to want to build on your new ship. So I'm going to say continuous industry queue of all things on the recycler. Basically, if there are things to recycle, we should recycle them. The next one is steel plates. I'm going to say if we have less than 5, make steel plates. Steel plates are made out of carbon and base metals. Now, if you zoom out here, you can see I've got base metals over here and carbon over there. So I will be able to make steel plates, but I'm only going to queue it up if I need them. Same with the electronic components. This is made out of noble metals and base metals. I'm going to say construct if less than 3. Actually, I'm going to edit the steel plates to say less than 3. Then we've got, and that was on the refiner over here, this electronic components fabricator. Over here, you got the assembler. This makes hull blocks, soft blocks, and infra blocks. This is very useful for building. And again, I'm going to tell them less than 3. Soft blocks is mostly for furniture. Hull blocks is, of course, for your hull. And infra blocks is for, basic facilities. Before I go any further, there's also grow beds. So I'm going to start growing artificial meat. I want to grow fruits and vegetables, fibers for soft blocks, and maybe more fruits and vegetables. That's going to be very important for you to get going early on because you don't want to run out of food. It's giving me a heads up that I have some hull laid out here, but I'm not going to really worry about utilizing the hull. Another important one is the microweaver. This makes this turns fibers that are grown in your grow beds into fabrics, and then the fabrics are then used in the assembler with some steel plates to make soft blocks. Another one that's going to be very, very important is water. which is processed from ice. You definitely don't want to run out of water, as if you run out of water, you run out of food really, really, really quickly. That's another important one, which doesn't have a construction queue, is the tools facility. This is for basic maintenance. And a kitchen for cooking. Again, these don't have, you don't queue up meals or anything like that. But it's going to be very, very important for you to have them anyway. And then this facility comes with a barracks and medical beds. So what these things here are, these are little job pods or miners. What they do is they will be used to construct things or mine things. This mining base starts off with 4. On your first ship, I highly advise you to have only maybe 2, as they are expensive, and you probably don't have more than 2 miners in your roster anyway. Then you have a shuttle. Shuttles are used to shuttle people around. So a shuttle will be used eventually to break down this derelict ship. Shuttles are very, very important as well. You absolutely will need a shuttle on your ship 2. I'm going to start speeding up time here. Actually, a lot. Now, in the top right here, as you can see, they have their mood cues going. They're going to get, spacesuit fatigue. They're going to be a little hungry. They're going to be lonely, etc., etc. Totally, totally normal. So you have a bunch of overlays here. You've got where your vents are. Here, let me slow it down a little bit. You've got where hazardous gases are. So, for instance, I have a lot of industrial buildings here. But we also have a gas scrubber, which scrubs harmful gases from this this section of the base. As you can see, the starting mining base has multiple sections. So this section is separated out because it helps to have higher ratios of CO2 when you're growing plants. So it has a CO2 producer. This section produces a lot of outgassing. So you've got a gas scrubber. These sections here don't really need to be separated, but it doesn't hurt to have them separated. And then your barracks and your kitchenette area definitely needs to be separated out because of comfort. So let me go through this. So you have smoke. Smoke only really applies if you have a fire on your base. You have CO2 levels. So the CO2 levels almost everywhere is single digits, except for the farm. It's 26. You have O2 levels, which are in the high 190s, 180s, so on and so forth. If you have any isolated areas, basically areas that you can't reach because you've blocked them off, this will show it. In this view, what is this view? Available jobs. You can see the jobs that are available to be done. So, for instance, our miners have already mined out this asteroid entirely. Then comfort. So this comfort is going to be important. That keeps morale up. So certain buildings, like this power generator, is really, really awful to be around. It's very noisy and ugly. So you're going to want to keep things like power generators far away from your beds and your kitchens. So, for instance, as you can see, this kitchen has a plus 10. The jukebox has a plus 20. If the jukebox was actually moved a little bit closer to the table here, it would provide a little bit more benefit. And then lights produce some benefit as well. So as you can see, parts of this base are extraordinarily uncomfortable for people to be in. It's just ugly and awful because of pod hangers and power generators, so on and so forth. So when you design your spaceship, it's going to be very important to separate out a kitchen and barracks from everything else. Then you have temperature. As you can see, it's pretty tempered around here, and that's because we've got space heaters everywhere. These objects here are space heaters. And then last but not least, power. I know this looks like a crazy mess, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just what power is being used and where power is being generated, and the availability. So you can see the stored and the consuming, so on and so forth. All right, so here is, let me speed it back up, our ship in progress. As you can see, these little miners are building, and our best builders here are doing the tasks. So if I cycle through what people are doing, if you zoom all the way out, these little green dots are where people currently are. and where current miners and constructors and shuttles are. Our miners are mining out these asteroids quite quickly, and our builders are building the hull of our ship. Now, the mining station that you start off with will not have enough resources for you to build like a capital class ship or whatever. You're initially gonna have a pretty bare bones ship that you have to then add to. So plan small, plan efficiently. Right now it's telling me to build an airlock, but I'm going to wait until the full hull layout is done. I'm only about a third of the way there. And then once my miners have finished mining out all these little asteroids, I will queue up this derelict. So there's a lot of resources on derelicts, most of them at least. And it's going to be important to break down that derelict for the ability to, build more of my own ship. So here we go. Just to trace like one person, for instance. Dennis Keith is delivering water to these grow tables, as is Damien, actually, doing a little bit of logistics as well. You've got the miners that dock with your X1 airlocks and drop off things that they, resources that they gathered. And then people do logistics to bring it to storage. So as you can see, if your X1 airlocks fill up, they're not going to be able to drop off any more resources. So it's going to be important to have storage close to your X1 airlocks. The pod hangars is just where the miner goes at the when they finish their current tasks. Right now I haven't really used the shuttle, but once I use the shuttle, I'll show you. Another important thing is power grid. So here I have one big generator that links up to a bunch of other power grid nodes. So it's going to be important for you to have power grid nodes throughout the base. One thing to note is if you have your links chained like this, for instance, if this node goes down, so does everything downstream. So you might want to design some redundancy just in case. So now we've mined 3 of the asteroids fully, and I'm just going to speed it up again. Now this little starting base has a pretty sizable medical bed facility. This is probably way more than you need. I generally don't even build a medical facility initially. So if I click on any individual person here, you can sort of see their status, their food, their energy, their comfort, their safety, their social, their health, if they're hurt, so on and so forth. And then you can see, what their stats are. So if you take a look at their conditions, like Solbian, or Dennis Keith rather, is a little lonely. He doesn't really have any relationships. Solbian doesn't really have any relationships. These guys have been put to work. We've got Accidental Aggro, who's lonely and feeling a little hungry, but he's starting to build up a friendship with Damien. A little hungry for Wolf Bear as well. And then Damien reciprocating the relationship. You could sort of check in on them if you need to. And then up here you can see their health, their energy, their O2. Because there is a condition where they might suffocate if they're, isolated for too long or if they're stuck, etc., etc. So we have a lot of our constructors, and this is where it's really important to have a nice team composition. If you have only one constructor, for instance, you will only have, the progress building your base will be very, very slow. Or if you only have one miner, I would say mining is almost the most important. The first episode here is going to have a lot of construction because basically I'm building the ship. But mining is going to be one of those very, very important things to have after you're done building your first ship, because a lot of the systems that you go to will have things to mine up. So the next thing I'm going to want to do, now that my miners are totally done, is to draft Damien, Dennis, Solbian, and Wolfbear, because the basic hull is done. I'm probably going to wait till the day is over, though. So the first thing I'll do is, to this ship, now that the hull is in place, and I'm sure I'll be adding the hull soon, is to drop an airlock. I'm going to drop an airlock in the back. I'm going to make sure that 1, 2, 3, that it's straight up in the middle, just for symmetry's sake. I like to try to build symmetrical ships. So this airlock is going to allow a shuttle to deliver resources. It's going to be the first thing you're going to need to add. So here we go. It creates like a little weird floating platform here, but this platform will deliver resources to allow the construction of the airlock. And then you can see it will deliver a person that will grab those resources in a spacesuit. Solbian's doing it, because Solbian has really good piloting skills, and Solbian's going to be doing the logistics of delivering these resources. And now that these resources are delivered, Solbian is a little stuck until the shuttle arrives and picks him back up. Because right now it's rest time. It's the end of the day. And here, Solbian is getting delivered to have a meal and then sleep. So at the start of next day, there will be a little bit of a rest period. And then I'm going to draft these guys to board the derelict ship. You see they're hanging out in the bathroom. Often your guys will need to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. So here they're hanging out near the jukebox, and then I'm going to go for the draft. So if you hit draft here, you can then order them around. As you can see, they have their guns out, and I'm going to tell them to enter the shuttle, and then the shuttle here, I'm going to say to dock with the derelict. Not all derelicts are going to have docking ports. If they don't have docking ports, you could go through broken down walls. Then I'm going to select the shuttle and kick everybody out. And as you can see, let me slow down time. They've already blown up one space bug. Here you'll see some gunfire. And we do sustain a little bit of wounds and injury as we clear out this spaceship. This derelict ship. Now, there aren't just bugs. There are other enemies in this game as well. There's enemy pirates and the like. But at least for the starting scenario in the starting base, the first derelict you're going to have is going to be full of these bugs. And once you fully explore the ship and confirm it does not have bugs anymore, it will be salvageable. But you just have to go to every little hidden nook, cranny, and corner first. Speed time up a little bit. I think... Oh, no, there's still yet more bugs. Now, if anyone got hurt enough, they would first pass out, and you could then pick them up. But here we go. Now we've fully explored this ship. We've confirmed that there's no more bugs. As you can see here in their oxygen stats, this blue bar here, they used about a third, a quarter of their oxygen or so. I'm going to select all four of them, say undraft, and then it's also going to be important to undraft the shuttle. If I don't undraft the shuttle, the guys are going to be marooned here because basically I'm telling the shuttle to stay. So if I undraft the shuttle, these guys then can return back home. So the next important thing, and this is what this tooltip is saying, is zoom out and click the derelict that you just cleared. So this originally was owned by the Military Alliance, but it was seized by me. And here's the resources. So it has a little bit of soft scrap. It has a lot of infra scrap. A little tech scrap, a little some energy scrap, and a little hull scrap. And I'm going to say salvage these scraps. Basically, strip this ship of all of its worth. And then also there's transfer. So it has some water, some energy rods, some hull blocks, etc., etc. I'm going to select all except for the... If I hold left control, I can deselect the human meat. I don't want human meat, and I also don't want alien meat or monster meat. And I'm going to then transfer this over to the Atlas, my mining base. So I'm telling them to grab everything but like the unsavory meats. Leave the unsavory meats on the you know, on the shuttle. And here you'll see my guys are going to be breaking down the ship. So here's a miner, for instance, who is removing some of the hulls. And this is going to generate hull scrap. And then you've got Wolf Bear breaking down, doors, which is probably infra scrap. And they're going to basically be scrapping the ship for all of its parts. It won't fully remove the ship. You don't take everything, but it will break down a sizable amount. Now, as our shuttle is used in breaking down this derelict, the shuttle won't be used to build our new ship. So what's going to be important here is for us to get a shuttle hangar on this new ship quickly. So one thing that you might want to do to maximize your time is to actually tell them to build a shuttle hangar in the new ship first. This might actually allow you to do more work, because right now what's happening is my all of my the one shuttle that I have is being utilized for salvage, not for construction. So now that we have a little airlock here, the next thing that's going to be important to do, and it's telling me right here, is to build storage. Small or large storage. I usually go for large because it stores a whole lot more than small. So if you take a look at the grid here, let's build 2 large storages. I'm going to build them like this, just next to the pod airlock. And then it's going to complain about power and other stuff like that. So I'm going to add, if I go to Power tab, I'm going to add a power generator. Just like that. And we're going to start to supply this construction project with supplies from the mining base. And then, as I said, the next thing I really want is a shuttle hangar, because I'd like to double up my the amount of shuttles that I have, so I can have shuttles for both construction and for salvage. I'm also going to require a tools facility. So if we go to resource tools facility, I'm going to need to add a tools facility here, which I will put here. I'm also going to need life support. So I'm going to put an oxygen generator and a gas scrubber and a thermal regulator, which is like a heater. All of these things are going to be required just for the basic construction and operation of the new ship. As you can see, the shuttle here is delivering a whole bunch of resources to the point where basically this pod here is now blocked because it's too full. But it's rest time. It's nighttime. Well, quote unquote nighttime, because we're in space. There's really no night per se. So what I'm hoping happens is that a constructor gets sent over to... Yep, here we go. Constructors are getting sent over, and they're starting to construct the projects that I had queued up. So the tools facility, the heater, the power generator, the shuttle. And I am going to build a shuttle here. So we have 2 shuttles, which will allow for a little extra productivity. So the next thing it's telling me is to expand the power grid. So if I go to power here, I'm going to use the floor nodes. I'm going to set up 2 floor nodes here and 1 right here. Your power generator can only link to 3 things, so I'm going to set up 3 nodes ahead of time, telling it what to link to. Actually, I might move these up a little. Again, trying to keep symmetry as best I can. And we'll be delivering resources to get this done. So we'll get the power grids done. Now, right now in this little ship, it's a little oxygenated. If we check O2, as you can see, it's getting a little bit of oxygen, but it's dreadfully cold. It's too cold for them to take off their spacesuits. So as you can see, they're working in their spacesuits, which for most people, unless they have a mood modifier that allows them not to be affected by wearing spacesuits, it's going to upset them. So here's our 3 power nodes at start and our second storage. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 more thermal regulators. And then we want to get... Do I have a second shuttle yet? No, I don't have a second shuttle yet. So I got my oxygen generator. Now, as the oxygen generator works, it will start to... okay, here. Now we have 2 shuttles. So now that I have 2 shuttles, I'm going to go back and say salvage the rest of this ship and transfer all but the human meat and the monster meat to the new ship, the Xanth. I'm going to rename the Xanth, rename my Xanth ship. So we've got Atlas, which is their starting miner base, and then the Xanth. Oops. Part of me doesn't... I don't know. Well, I'll think about renaming it at some point. But I'll let the... So now that will allow us to fully strip the derelict, but not monopolize the single shuttle, because now I have 2 shuttles. Now, if you wanted to save a little bit of money, you could have clicked the shuttle bay and relocated this shuttle over here. That's what I'm going to do to the pod miners. But I find that it's worth the extra little resources to build a new shuttle so that you can use both. So now you'll see the old shuttle be shepherding materials over here, and we can use this shuttle. As you can see, both shuttles are now in action and being used. So these oh, we had a little bit of an accident building that. The oxygen in here is breathable. It's medium. It's not high oxygen because we have more time left. But as you can see, I am building this second thermal regulator. The ship here is slowly becoming livably warm. The next thing it's going to tell me to do is to build a light so that they can see. So I'm just going to plop a light right there in the middle of everything. And yes, this ship is being stripped for parts. And the logistics overwhelmed. Basically, there's so many tasks that I've queued up that they're struggling to keep up. But that's all right. I don't think I would lower the amount of tasks. Basically, I have too many things that are being transferred and moved around. But that's totally normal this early on. Okay, it's pretty tempered in here. So what I might end up doing is just canceling the extra thermal regulator. Now, I will be expanding upon this ship, so I will need another thermal regulator at some point, but not just yet. And as you can see, the oxygen here is it's pretty decent as well. The queue for the bathroom. Oh, yeah. All right, so now they're back to work. if I take a look at the derelict here, the derelict basically has no more scrap to be had. That's actually pretty stripped. There's basically nothing left in the derelict, which means that our focus will be entirely constructing and building this the new ship. All right, so now it's telling me they require beds and a toilet. So here's where it's important to separate parts of your ship out from one another. So I'm going to be adding a little bit of extra hull in the front. And then I'm going to expand the sides out like this. Keep it symmetrical. Okay, just like that. That's fine. All right. We have a lot of constructors, so this should go pretty fast, as you can see. We're just very, very quickly adding hull. Now, I know I'm going to sort of skip over the requirements that the tutorial are telling me, and I'm going to add things that I know is going to be required. So the stabilizer keeps your hull intact, which allows you to, you know, move around and all that. Oh, we have an incoming ship. Interesting. Now, in the tutorial, the incoming ship is not going to be hostile or anything like that. So it's not going to open fire on us. Basically, we're in like a friendly sandbox of sorts. Okay, so we're almost done adding the hull. Now, to note, while you add hull, you don't necessarily... It doesn't vent anything out to space. Now, if I was to click this airlock and say vents open, it would vent it out to space. You would do this in the case of like a fire you couldn't get under control or something like that. That's not the case here. But now, as you can see, I added additional volume to the base. It's having a harder time keeping up with temperature. So I will be adding another regulator. So here... we've got a visiting ship that I would be able to hail if I had a operations, and we can trade with it. So it's saying like, hey, this is the resources I have. These are the resources, you know, and we could go ahead and just trade. If I said, here, Xanth, the Xanth still has a few resources that we haven't moved over as well. But I'm not going to worry about trade just yet. So it's telling me that I want, or I should add beds. So let's go to furniture. And I'm going to add, for now, bunk beds. And I'm going to wall them up from the rest of the ship and add a door. And then it's also saying put in a bathroom. So I'm going to actually edit my hull again. Put this out like this, and this out. Let's see. I'm going to put a grow bed here. And wall this off. I'm going to bump this wall out a little bit just to keep it symmetrical. So let me... if you hit the delete key, you can delete things that were queued up pretty quickly. So now, as you can see, it's right, left symmetrical. And in here, we'll also put a CO2 producer. This might actually be a little bit larger than it needs to be, so let me cut down both of these side rooms to use less real estate, because real estate is precious, especially early on. So I'll just have it walled up like this. Perfect. And we'll put a little CO2 producer to improve the rate at which we grow. As you can see, we are adding to the hull. What I'm going to put here is bathrooms. One bathroom on one side, and then I'm going to keep the other side empty for now. I should also queue up power nodes. We'll keep that rolling. The trade ship has left. So now, right here, I'm just going to put the toilet and put that behind a wall as well. And we're going to need power here as well. Another power node. And I'll put one symmetrically on the other side as well. And a door to the toilet. No point in having a toilet without a door. And we're going to need lights in here, especially in the bedrooms. I know it's a little counterintuitive, but the lights create comfort. Without lights, the bedroom's going to be a lot less comfortable. Actually, I'm going to change the type of light I have. Let's forget that one and build this one. And drop a wall in here. And then the other thing I'm going to do is a wall coming across here with maybe a door here and here. And this is going to isolate the comfortable part of the ship from the manufacturing part of the ship, which means putting in food facilities or resource facilities like a kitchen and the like. So facility kitchen, I'll put the kitchen right here, and then furniture. Have one of these large couches with a table and an extra chair. I can actually move that down a little bit. Save room. Space efficiency is going to be really, really, really important early on because you definitely want to use every last ounce of space that you have available because hull blocks are at a premium. I'm going to move these heaters up a little bit to use the space appropriately. And we're getting a fair portion of the ship laid out. Another thing I'm going to want way up front is if I go to systems, you're going to need a navigation and operations console to start. And I will put a light here. Keep them illuminated. I'm also almost certainly going to need another power node or two. So I had a power node here that puts a power node here, and I'm going to put one here as well. So once I get these constructed, we'll get this ship underway, which, as I'm looking at the clock, will probably not be this episode. Now, I do have hull stability achieved because I have this hull stabilizer. And we are trying to get this constructed as soon as we can. Now, another thing that's going to be important is in your life support, putting air vents. Well, actually, you don't want an air vent to your farm because you want CO2 to build up in there purposefully, but you're going to want air vents around other things so that your oxygen generator can supply air to the rest of your ship. Otherwise, you know, people are going to require spacesuits in parts of your ship, which doesn't make much sense. So that's about all the time I have for this episode. Next episode will be the completion of this ship, and then probably its maiden voyage jump. If you have any tips, tricks, feedback for me, questions about the game, drop me a line in the comments below. If you're curious about the schedule for this, just go to Rhadamant.com to see the release schedule. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this first episode and the episodes to come. Catch you all later. Adios.